Come. Hey everybody, on our way back from the gym.
Hello.
Sonia's with me. So I want to talk today about a couple of things, including what you need to name your company as you get into business and what some of the good practices are around that. And then also I want to talk about choosing business as a livelihood or as a side hustle. So let's start with choosing a good name. So if you're getting into business, no matter what the business is, you've got to give a good thought on what you're going to call your company. So right now with Amazon and eBay, if you've spent any time there, you should go and see what sellers call their companies. And what you'll find is there are some company names that are just ridiculous. They're locking themselves in. So what I mean is, I've seen names like, John and Jen's Corner Shop, or John and Jen's Place, or Khalid's Housewares, or something like that. And that's, I think, a little bit short-sighted because you're getting into this game long-term. So long-term, the goal is to build up your e-commerce empire and then one day have a exit strategy and sell it. Well, if I'm a potential buyer of your business, do I really want to buy John's Kitchenware and you're selling tires? And that's what ends up happening is you think, hey, I'm going to just sell this kitchenware stuff because I've got a good source, or that's my first product. But then, as you proceed to your next products, bless you, you get into other products that have nothing to do with your original name. And when you put your name in your business, it just sounds very small. So you want to choose a name that's general enough so that it's scalable for the future. So something, like the Good Store, or the Green Store, Austin Marketplace. I mean, you could choose a city name that works nationally as well. Anything like that that's general enough that, like Amazon.com or eBay.com, those are perfect examples. They're selling everything under the sun, and you want to get that into your name. You want to have a general enough name that you could easily get into the rubber tire business or the kitchenware or the automobile business or whatever, and not worry about, hey, does it sound weird if I've got my store called Sally's Shop and I'm selling tires? It just sounds weird. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing is just related to that. You can start out with a personal account, a lot of people do, and then move into a pro account. But I would say, the minute you've sold at least $20,000 worth of goods, you really want to start thinking about getting yourself in a corporation. And whether that's an LLC or a C Corp or an S Corp or whatever, that's a conversation you need to have with your accountant. And you need to determine, is this something that you should do right away or wait a little bit? A lot of it depends on what you're selling. So if you're selling anything that could be harmful, that could have anybody going after you for litigation. So for example, if on day one you're selling food, I wouldn't even think about it. I would get the corporation right away. The big thing that does for you is it separates your business from yourself and your family from a liability standpoint. So if you decide you're going to sell hoverboards, which I advise you don't do, even though they're going like gangbusters, and I was actually thinking about importing them, but with all the news, with Amazon actually taking some suppliers off their site, and in the news, some of these things have basically blown up people's houses. So that's probably not a good thing. But let's just say that that's a business you are going into. Day one, you better make sure you've got liability insurance. And then on top of that, you may need specific product insurance. But that goes back to, you've got to have a corporation to do any of these things. You could get those insurances individually, but if you're going to be professional and you're going to start moving anything beyond a hobby, you've got to get, number one, a good name that allows you to scale to multiple categories and products, and then number two, get yourself a corporation and talk to your accountant or your lawyer about what's the right thing for you, which state do you register in. I've had a corporation in Delaware. I've got corporations in Texas. And so a lot of these things, you've got to have a long conversation with your accountant. There's so many dependencies. Okay, the second thing, so I talked about the company and the business name and all that. The second thing I want to talk about really quick is business in general and the whole idea of being an entrepreneur. So I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and this is from personal experience, 3 paths that you can choose once you're out of school. So your first path is you graduate, you get a degree, like I did. I've got a electrical engineering degree. Sonia's got a business degree, and we both went and got good jobs, and we made very good money. We were blessed. And we got everything we wanted, nice houses, nice cars, nice vacations every year and all that stuff, and very, very blessed. So that's one path. The other path is, like a lot of people that I know, they didn't finish school, or they came to this country, they immigrated to this country, and they got into business, and they started from the bottom and worked up. So some of these guys and gals were like cashiers at McDonald's. Some of them worked at gas stations. And eventually they worked their way up where they basically owned the franchise. They owned the McDonald's, or several, or gas stations, and then several gas stations. That's kind of the second path. And most people fit into these 2 paths. And when you think about where these 2 paths take you, and I'm speaking generally here, of course, but in the corporate world, you can work 10 years, 20 years, but your whole goal is, I want to become a VP. I mean, that's why people take a corporate job, is because you want to climb the corporate ladder. It's very, very rare that you take a corporate job and say, I just want to be a business analyst for the rest of my life, until I retire. Some people do that, but that's very rare. Most people do want to climb that corporate ladder. And what ends up happening is, just like it happened to me and so many other of my friends, is the higher you go, yes, your salary does increase, but the responsibility increases disproportionately. You get more and more responsibility. You have to manage a team of 15, 20 people, and it just keeps growing. You get a bigger and bigger paycheck, but there's no 9 to 5. It just it just consumes you. And that's kind of what happened to me. I became a VP. I started out as a business analyst, and then I became a manager, senior manager. I was a consultant, traveled the country. I've been to almost every state, traveled the world. I did some consulting for the government of Afghanistan. And then I became a VP of a big data company. But my life was consumed. And at the end of the day, a VP, you're going to go from out of school starting at maybe 50,000, 60,000, and then 15 years later, 10 years later, you're going to get to a level where you may make 6 figures, you may make 150. Eventually, you may even get to, a senior VP at a nice company and make 200,000, 300,000. I mean, those are salaries of corporate VPs. And so that's a 15, 20-year path on average. Of course, there's people that skyrocket before that. Now, when you look at the other path, which is somebody who gets into business and starts as a cashier or starts as a waiter or whatever, and I think because of their circumstances, they're more desperate sometimes. They're more hungry, and eventually they do work up to a level where they own the dang restaurant, they own the gas station. And I know personally of friends who've done this, and 10 years down the road, they own that business, and in the meantime, you're still plugging away as a corporate jockey, and you're making 150,000, and they're pulling in 500,000 easily. All of these service businesses, these small businesses that are around you, where you live, plumbers and mechanics, and you would be surprised to see how much money the business owners, how much money they actually pull in I mean, for them, pulling in $500,000, $250,000 is actually not a big thing. And they plan, big steps. They plan, okay, now I've got one. My plan is now to get 2 more next year. And so that's a different path. And I'm not trying to say one path is better than the other, because it really is dependent on you and what you want. Some people are happy with the 9 to 5 and not have that responsibility of owning a business. But I would argue there is no 9 to 5 anymore. If you're in corporate America, you own a business, because there's no job security anymore. You could be the greatest employee and be fired. And I've been fired. I've had to fire good employees myself who worked for me, all because of an accounting decision to say, hey, we need to trim our costs. And that's tough, sitting down and telling somebody, hey, I need to let you go because your account, there's nothing wrong that you've done. So in any case, I'm getting off course. So the 2 paths, the corporate path and the business path. And so there's pros and cons in both. Now, I'm going to propose a 3rd path, which I think many, many successful people have figured out and do really well, at least the ones who who have achieved the financial success that they're looking for. I think this is what they teach their kids. And I've seen this firsthand. And that 3rd path is to be an entrepreneur while you're in the corporate race. And I think that hybrid solution is something that's really, really good for somebody that doesn't want to take the risk of quitting their job, but wants to get into business. And I think it's also a great path to teach your kids. And so, Zach, when you're older and you're seeing this, maybe this is something you'll consider. Start with a corporate career, because that does teach you a lot. It does teach you discipline. It does teach you team making skills and working with others. And that's tremendous. And you really, really need that. But on the side, do you really need to be watching, what's the average, 2 hours of TV Americans watch every evening? And on the weekends, do you really need to be watching 6 hours of TV? No. You could start a business on the side. And that's what soccer moms do. I mean, their prime job is to take care of their kids. That's what they chose, and that's commendable. And that's what, Sonia did that too for like 6 years when Zach was born. But a lot of these women and men, start these side hustles. And I think the side hustle, which is the 3rd path that I'm talking about here, is really, really a good way. And I have friends who come up to me, at least once a month and say, hey, Naeem, I see you're doing really well. How can I get in on the game? Can we do some partnerships? Or what do I need to do? How much do I need to invest? And so this is a little bit of advice. I've always done some business while I was in the corporate world. Of course, it wasn't focused. Now I'm focused on it, and I left corporate America 3 years ago, and I feel it was the best decision I ever made. I could never go back. As a matter of fact, I had a friend who came to me 2 weeks ago, and we were sitting down for coffee. He was an employee of mine, and we had coffee, and he looked at me, and he actually works at Dell, and he said, hey, Naeem, here's $160,000. There's a corporate opening, and it's my boss and me making the decision, and the job is yours. And I got to tell you, for a second, I hesitated, and I said, maybe that would be nice to have that security. But I turned him down, and I said, I was so appreciative that he remembered me and offered me the job. But at the end of the day, it sounds like a lot of money, $160,000 plus benefits plus whatever. But again, small business, $160K is nothing. I mean, our goal in our e-commerce business is to hit $1 million next year. My first private label product sale was August 20th. Today is December 11th or 12th, I think. So within August, September, October, so within 4 months, we're already at almost $70,000 in sales. 30% ROI on that. So you do the math. And that's not even spending the majority of the year on this. So next year, the $160K is not even on the table. It's not a consideration when it comes, again, to having a solid business. Plus, I'm thinking about wholesale. I'm thinking about a lot of different things. And this is my side hustle. This is not what I feed my family with. I've got other businesses, so I'm fortunate. But again, I see this business, the side hustle, as becoming potentially bigger than my other IT and financial company that I have very, very easily. So just to wrap up, think about your business name, what it should be called. Don't call it Khalid's Corner Shop or Sally's Goods. Give it a name that will last for the future. Get yourself some insurance the minute you get into any kind of risky product, or once you hit, I would say, 20K in sales. And then lastly, think about the side hustle. A lot of you are asking me questions like, hey, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? You got to hustle. If you have a job, you need to be watching the videos, and nobody's going to do that work for you. So everybody who is successful that I know and that I've met in this business work their ass off. And that's the secret formula. That's, it's perspiration. It's sweat equity. So take that to heart. Again, feedback welcome, comments, any questions, etc. I'm here to help you guys out, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.